Hello and welcome to this episode of Trash to Track. In this episode I'm going to be looking at this Triang Hornby Hymek that's been sent in by Keith. Now Keith says he sent this away for repair, but it's come back and it's still not working properly. Now as you can see there, it's got these very fine wheels on it. I believe these are ultra scale brass replacements. And there's the old armature that he's very kindly included, although that is too badly damaged to be of any use. So giving it a battery test, it is trying to run, but it's very noisy and very coggy. There's no smoothness and no power to this model whatsoever. So it should be relatively simple to work on. So let's take the body shell off and have a look what we've got inside. Now this Hymek has been detailed up. It's got wire handrails and full buffer beam equipment both ends. And undoing the two clips on one end, it becomes apparent that the head code clip has also been modified at the other. Standard Triang Hymeks have a clip that goes through the head code panel and holds the body in place. There's some surface rust on the weights, which is not uncommon with these. So I'm going to lift this spring clip up to release the motor bogie. Once that's out, the motor bogie drops down, and then I noticed that the brushes are actually facing in towards the model. Now I've got a feeling that they should be the other way around. I'm going to have to get another Triang Hornby Hymek, a standard one, and check. And also the armature has got a lot of movement in it. When you move the wheels, the armature is moving backwards and forwards quite a lot. Putting a battery direct to the motor, it is trying to spin, but obviously the dirty wheels and contacts are stopping it picking up power from the track. So I'm going to strip this down. You have to undo this nut and bolt arrangement in here, and once that's out, easier said than done. The nut was stuck. Then the whole top assembly lifts off, revealing the magnet, and there are the brushes in there. Now the brushes look to be in good condition. They are a little bit dirty, but everything else seems to be good, although there is very little in the way of magnetism on the magnet, so we're going to have to remag this model. Now, I do have one of these Ronald Dodd magnetising machines, and having found out which is north on the magnet, I put it between the two poles and press this button 3 times, very gently, very quickly, and then the magnet is remagnetised, and there you can see just how strong that magnet is, and now it's sticking to the screwdriver and not falling off. So that's restored the magnet, and that will go a long way in helping this model run smoothly when we reassemble it. So now I'm cleaning the commutator faceplate with my normal method, cotton bud with methylated spirits, and I'm also going to clean the gaps out in the commutator with a cocktail stick. Now there wasn't that much dirt on the commutator really. I believe, like I said, this model was sent away to have a new armature fitted, but whoever repaired this hasn't done it quite correctly. To clean the pickups, I always just leave the pickups rest on a battery. It saves bending them up, so I'm just polishing these up with a fiberglass pencil, as the brass had gone quite dull and there was quite a little bit of built up carbon on these. For smooth running Triang models, you really do need to have everything clean for good electrical conductivity. Now to remove the armature, I'm going to remove these 2 clips either end that hold the bearing in place. These can be gently prised off, and then the whole thing will come out, armature and those 2 side magnet pieces. Everything comes off. And yeah, what I'm looking at here is I think this has been put together and they are missing a bearing. That's what's allowing that armature to move so much. I'm also going to remove the base keeper plate to remove the wheels, as everything in here will need a good clean. There's quite a bit of fluff and dirt in here, so it's best to strip it all down to component parts and clean everything up. And you can see there the replacement ultra scale wheels on this model. Now these being brass, they do collect dirt very easily. Anybody with Lima models will know that pure brass wheels are dirt magnets. They really do need to be kept clean. You need to keep on top of maintenance if any of your trains are fitted with brass wheels. So all the wheels and wheel backs were cleaned with cotton bud and mess, and now they're nice and shiny, almost like new. The bogie mainframe itself is quite dirty, so again with the cotton bud and mess, I'm just going to clean all this up. And then once I've removed the majority of the fluff and gunk that was built up, I'm just going to give it a brush over with the old dry paintbrush just to remove any dirt and fluff that's remaining. The traction magnets in there, I left them in situ. I didn't take those out because they're not really used on modern track, but they do keep the axle in place. So I'm just going to leave that where it is. So there's quite a lot of hair build up on this bogey frame, and I'll just dust off the rest as I said. So now we're all ready to start reassembling, and the first thing to go back in obviously is the wheels. These don't matter which way around they go, they're not polarity sensitive because but all wheels are insulated. The base keeper plate was given a clean up to remove any old oil and grease, and then that was refitted with the 2 screws, and then a very small amount of oil is dropped from the pin dropper onto the axle ends where they sit inside the bogey frames. I'm going to have to get some more oil soon and refill this because I'm fast running out. It can be a pain to try and get oil on that. So then what I've done now is I'm going to reassemble the bogey without or how it came, but you can see just how much play there is in that armature, and I believe when whoever stripped this apart before has forgotten to put some bearings back in. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to rebuild the motor as it is without putting anything on it, and then I'll demonstrate to you why you should always put the bearings back in. So you could hear there when that motor bogey was going forwards just how noisy it was without the bearings, and now I've fitted some, and you can see them just here, the silver bearings between the brass bearings and the worm gear, and that has restricted the movement of the armature no end, and that's how it should be. Whoever had reassembled it had obviously forgot to put these back on. So now I'm going to put a small piece of oil, a drop of oil on all the bearings just to make sure they're properly lubricated. And the magnet, as you can see, is already back in place. And then I'll reattach that top assembly with all the brushes and that on it, which I've already cleaned. And we'll give this a proper test run now to see how it runs now it's been reassembled correctly and the correct way round. These clips can be quite fiddly. They are a springy type of steel. They just need to be hooked around one side and then clipped firmly into place. Now, as I mentioned at the start of the rebuild, I was beginning to think the armature was in the wrong way round. So I dug out this other Triang Hymek that I've got in the Trash to Track stash, which will feature in its own episode one day, and compared this motor bogey, which is original and unaltered, to the one on the model. And indeed, I was correct. They were the wrong way round when I first took this model apart. So the motor case, as you'd call it, the brush holder, is then put back in, just pinching the brushes on the spring so that they go either side of the commutator, and then ensuring that the pickups are behind each wheel and that each one is making contact with the wheel, and then the nut and bolt can be put back in. The motor top assembly does have a hexagonal cutout for the nut to sit in, so the nut and bolt will only go in one way. So now that that's done, I put the motor bogey back in and then slide the spring clip back over the nut on top of the motor, which we didn't need to remove at all during this rebuild. And indeed, that is how Triang intended these motors to be removed, by removing that spring clip. And I've gone back in time a little bit now. Before I put the motor bogey back on and resoldered the wires on, I actually cleaned all the pickups and the pickup wheels on the dummy bogey frame, as this has got pickups on this. It's only one wheel pickup on each axle, but again, it does help running with these Triang diesels, and they do need to be kept clean. Usual method: fiberglass pencil to remove the majority of the dirt, followed by a final polishing with cotton bud and methylated spirits. So now that's been done and the motor's been refit, again we've gone back in time a little bit here. The power pickup was intermittent from this bogey, and it ended up being a broken solder joint inside the bogey there where the wire touched the brass strip. So with the soldering iron, that was just gently touched back on, and then with some leads from a control, if you just watch the motor bogey, the wheels are spinning and it's all picking up correctly as it should from this dummy bogie end. So now everything is back together, where I'm just going to tidy the wires up by putting them in this recess where the battery box is, and the body shell can be refitted. And for a change, it's been a nice, relatively simple rebuild. The body shell, as you can see from the inside, was originally a blue model, but I really do like how this has been painted up and weathered, and it's just added that little bit of extra thing, because the Triang Hymek isn't a bad model overall. The dimensions seem to be correct, although the roof fan grille is not offset as it should be. And you can see here that the model is actually running rather nicely, and if I just jump to Trains View's test layout, you'll see that the motor is now nice and quiet. A couple of last niggly jobs to do, just sort out this coupling hooks on each end of the model, and also one of the wire handrails on the side is quite bent, so I'm going to use my tweezer nose pliers just to straighten this out and reattach it. And that is this rebuild of Keith's Hymek virtually complete. Now, as I was saying, it's not a bad looking model for its age, considering this dates from the mid to late 60s. It can be worked into a very nice looking model. And this model, now it's been remagnetised and has got ultra scale wheels fitted, is one of the smoothest and best running Triang Hymeks I've ever had to work on. If you've got anything you'd like to see featured in a future episode of Trash to Track, please email me at dansmodelrailways@gmail.com. Have a look at getting it sent over. Who knows, it may even feature in an episode all of its own. Now, I have muted the background sound because when I was in Trains View it was very busy with deliveries, etc. So you'll just have to listen to the background music while the Hymek trundles around. And apologies for my croaky voice, I have got a bit of a cold this week, so apologies for that. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Bye for now.